Peasant Productions presents the math of ESP, why it works even if you don't believe in it. Occupy International Space Station, Occupy ISS underscore IntSpaceStation. Yes, okay, I can actually spell sometimes. I am dyslexic, folks, yes, it is a challenge, and I'm learning a whole new language, which means I get about 5 or 6 little bits and pieces of language bouncing through my head all the time now. Problem with traveling and being dyslexic at the same time. Anyway, discussing the Occupy International Space Station. Yes, I did create the hashtag. Discussing the negative side of all of this, okay? The pitiful side, why you really need to think about it, because you're in harm's way. Can't give you the flip side because obviously I've got something printed on that. So we have the board here, and there's the positive side to getting into space, folks. Okay, space products and produce. Okay, let me get my little cheat sheet here. Give you an understanding what this is. I'll let you be able to see this and look at it as I babble here, an old story of mine. In 1978, I went to work at the Los Angeles Museum of Art, and I retook up painting at that point in time. I was living by myself, so I didn't have to worry about anybody critiquing what I did unless I wanted to show it to them. A lot of what I did was because the sci-fi background and the trying to figure out how to build and get into space was paintings of space. And one of the paintings I did, this was oil painting, so it took a while to do these things. I started out in oils. Acrylics were around, but they weren't as much spoken of. Plus, the museum was full of oil paintings. You have to understand. This is what I want to do. This is what I get to use. The painting in particular was a fairly large one that was out in space looking down toward the planet. And under normal white lights you would see one thing, but if I turned them off and I flipped on a red light instead, you would see in this one area, this kind of bizarre little area, something different. And I was showing it to a friend of mine, Mike, and he asked what it was. And I said, oh, that's hot gases traveling through space. It's just kind of a mass. It was projected out and thrown out there. And Mike, being a very intelligent person and one of my good sci-fi reading buddies, I mean, we would sit down and just tear through the books. Immediately said, oh, that can't happen. Well, between somewhere around 2 weeks and maybe 4 to 6 weeks later, it wasn't a real long time afterwards. It was still very fresh in our minds, the conversation. And the painting was up on a wall in the room. We were kicking back, drinking some beers, listening to the music, and discussing whatever sort of stuff we were. Mike's a musician. Shouldn't say was. He still is. He's very good. And the news comes on, and the announcer announces that NASA has just announced that their spacecraft Voyager has just passed through an excessively hot gas cloud in the middle of space, in the middle of nowhere. And they explain how, yeah, because there's very little heat transfer, that the spacecraft passed through it without any damage, but it passed through gases that were over 1,000 degrees in temperature in the middle of space, which is a vacuum, which is what we call absolute zero. Okay? So it did actually exist. I did actually produce the painting months before NASA ever experienced it, before anybody ever knew it. So we're going to go down a list here, and one of the things I'm going to discuss is bamboo and hemp carbon fiber. Right now, carbon fiber is made basically from petroleum product. in space you don't have that, or you don't have as easy access to it at the moment. But you have a lot of other things and a lot of natural stuff, and you also happen to need a lot of plant material growing to basically do your carbon to oxygen transfer, okay? CO2 to back to breathable oxygen transfer. And the reason you don't want machinery scrubbing your air is very simple. You need to have fruits and vegetables to eat. It costs an awful lot of money to send a pound of food from planet Earth up into space. However, if I take a drone and I drop it from space down to planet Earth, I need steering jets. I need, energy for airlines and the various necessities of an airplane flying. But if I had a crash-proof ball, I suppose I could just drop a ball onto the Earth and it wouldn't matter. It might leave a good-sized dent. That's what asteroids are. Asteroids don't cost anything to enter the atmosphere, do they? So if I got a bunch of fruits and vegetables always growing, I've got a marketable product right there, okay? I can remember laughing about the idea in the early 1970s of how much I would be able to sell a lead of lettuce for that was grown on a space station. Okay, early 70s, okay? The same with fruits and vegetables. Again, like I said, up there you don't have to worry about pests. So down over here, like cotton for instance, you could also be growing huge domes of silkworms and the mulberry leaves that they need specifically for them. And you don't have to worry about a lot of diseases. You don't have to worry about hurricanes. You don't have to worry about cyclones. You don't have to worry about typhoons. You don't have to worry about earthquakes. You do have to worry about meteorites, micrometeorites, equipment failure, stuff like that. Obviously there are dangers, folks. I'm not denying there are dangers. But if I have my choice between smashing into a sun at, say, 1,000 times the speed of light, and getting run over by a cement truck on a city road, yeah, I'll take the speed of light into the sun any day. Much more obliviated. But anyway, you have this whole different thing. Well, one of the things with bamboo and hemp marijuana is that it grows very, very quickly. Okay? So, if you're dealing with a situation where you have to have plants growing, and you've got bamboo and you've got hemp that grow excessively fast, which means you can harvest it many times, you're in an area where you have all the solar energy you want. You go out and get yourself an iceberg, called a comet, and you got pretty much all the water and ice you want. The bamboo, which pretty much is non-edible, is a great filtration system for your water, because as the water goes up through the bamboo, it leaves all of the toxins behind in the bamboo and produces moisture, evaporated air moisture, okay, dissipates out through the plant. When you distill it to make it into the carbon fiber, you're going to press all the moisture out of it. That moisture is going to be released into something you can capture. Okay, so you actually got a very useful thing for you to do there. And like I said, down here on Earth, carbon fiber is made out of petroleum products. Okay, well, bamboo, one of the things that carbon fiber is they're very long strips of carbon chain. Okay, bamboo grows in long straight lines. It may not be as strong, but hey, nobody's made this stuff yet, so we don't know what the end result's going to be. Hemp, you have oils, you have the very strong hemp rope, which to this day, naval people will tell you, there's nothing like a hemp rope. It doesn't have the slip of a polyethylene, rope or a polyester rope or one of those. It's got a little bit of give and shake and all that to it, and it seems to take the, takes the weather fairly well. It does need some help. The cotton stuff is, you know, breaks down a lot quicker, and you know, and various things like that. But it makes a very good rope. Okay, so you got that all that hemp fiber, and then being up there, personally, between alcohol and marijuana, the probability that somebody's going to be doing something really stupid on alcohol is very high. The probability of them doing something really stupid on pot is a lot lower. The alcoholic loses their vision. Okay, I've been drunk. I know what it's like to be drunk. Okay, they stumble around an awful lot more than any pothead does. A pothead might move slow. You ever been in a car with a guy that's stoned? Every intersection he takes real carefully. Ever been in a car with a person who's drunk? Chances are they aren't even paying attention, they just drove through a red light. Okay? So, yeah, I would much rather have people up there smoking pot for entertainment and relaxing. If my miner has to go out to the asteroid belt and he's going to spend 4 or 5 months in his little ship going out there, whatever he's got for a crew is all there is. Alcohol induces fighting. Marijuana doesn't. I'd much rather have it. They were out there, going out there smoking a little bit of pot. They can be growing it in the back room, so they got all they want. Not a problem. They've got, you know, their supply ship running alongside of them, or part of the design, however it ends up working out best. So you got this whole system running out there. You got food. You got, you know, wood. Think about it. Go up there and make some fucking trees grow in the middle of nowhere. So there's this whole thing, including air and water, that you can just be dropping back down onto Earth for very little cost and freight. The government wants to tell you how expensive it is to get up there. They don't want to tell you how cheap it is to send it back down. Okay? So, like I'm saying, with the wood part here, okay? The United States, classic example of bad management, okay? The lumber companies went through, logged out most all the forests that they could get their hands onto, and they went through and they planted a whole lot of 1 or 2 kinds of trees because those are, you know, what sell best in that area or whatever, okay? Western United States, northwestern United States, you got what they call the bark beetle. Why? Because it loves white pine, and white pine is what, you know, the big lumber companies and stuff like that going through there like to grow, because it grew fast, it grew relatively straight, it didn't have a whole lot of branches going all over the place, and it was a fairly soft wood, so it didn't eat up your saws and take, you know, be a lot of problem and a lot of heavy weight, and it marketed out very nicely for building houses. So the bark beetle had a wonderful time just going through millions of acres, okay? Up in space, you don't have to worry about that because the bark beetle can't get there in the first place. Or if it is found there, you can immediately eradicate it in that 1 or 2 areas and stop it. And it's not going to happen in your dome next door, is it? That bark beetle didn't have a spacesuit. He can't drill a hole in the dome, go from one to the next, you know, build himself a tube or whatever, okay? Yeah. So you have all of these things that you can do up there. And again, like I said, you know, how expensive is it to drop a drone down, especially if you're up here, where's my metal? Oh yeah, here we go. Vacuum of space tempered metals, okay? Everybody knows that when you want to temper something, it's in the cooling down process, how it's done. Just like my bamboo and hemp carbon fiber. It's never been done before. You've never done manufacturing up there. So you don't know what's going to happen in metals. You don't know what's going to be able to be produced in metals or what kind of metals you're going to have. You don't know about ceramics. You don't know about glass. The hemp, like I said, produces plastic oils. There's a lot of other plants that produce plastics and stuff. You don't know what you can make up there. You got a whole new unknown market. And yet you got the government telling you, oh, no, it's too expensive to go into space. We can't do this. We got to control you. Which I'm going to bring all flat earth people, on the other hand, they go all the way back to the Vatican. The Vatican didn't want people going out and exploring. They wanted the land for the Vatican. Okay, the Bible thingy. You know, those 4 churches. So I do get after flat earth people because as far as I'm concerned, flat earth people are around keep you from even thinking about stuff like this, which is much more logical because you have all of this stuff to worry about that you haven't done anything about. that is killing you. Okay?